And welcome to a long, well, I don't know about awaited, but an episode that I should have done a very long time ago. The last half of 2020 for me, along with lots of other people, I'm sure, was a very trying period, and my depression, anxiety, and a lot of other things got to its very worst. So I was unable to sort of get on here and do my research and do the things I wanted to do. And I do apologise for that. And I really do thank everybody that has kept downloading, kept going to my Facebook page, and kept contributing to the show, because it is going to get more and more content. I am going to be, with the work that I'm doing now on the Guarantee Group, I'm actually going to turn that into a little book, I've decided. It's not going to be huge, but it's going to have a bit more information than I'm actually giving you here on the podcast. So if you're interested in that, hit me up. Anyone that hits me up at this early time, I'll give a discount code to. And I may actually give you a copy for free if you hit me up at this early time on the website. On the Facebook page, sorry, and I'll add you to the list. And if you become a Patreon, you'll definitely get a copy for free as part of the Patreon package, which is as little as $1 a month. I don't care how much is sort of give me. It will help every little bit. Okay, guys. So as you've been aware, I've been talking about the Guarantee Group. And so for those that aren't aware what the Guarantee Group was, it was a group of 8 men that was selected by Harlan and Wolff. And these 8 men, in all the disciplines, were the best of the best of the 15,000 odd people that had worked on the Titanic over, and the Olympic and the Britannic over the times that they were built. Now, these men would go onto the ships as registered as normal passengers, but really as staff, and they would stay in passenger berths, but they would be working and employed at the time they were on there. Now, for most of these young men, and most of them were young men, this was sort of a trip of a lifetime. They had never left their town that they'd grown up in, let alone gone on to an ocean liner and gone to another country. So, along with being over the moon with being selected as part of the group, I mean, you think of the excitement. Think of the excitement that you have when you're about to go on a trip, or you're about to get on an aeroplane and fly to somewhere new. These guys, this was just out of the world. And as I said, they were the best of the best. They would go around the ship and help the staff on the ship or the crew fix last-minute things that hadn't been done, touch up paint, finish things, finish anything that needed to be finished. The Titanic, for example, wasn't full at the time of her crossing. So they could have been going into the different suites and painting and fixing up electrical interfaces, I mean, power points and things like that. If anything went wrong, they would be likely the ones that would probably fix it. Now, like Thomas Andrews, for example, he was the architect at the time of the sinking. And he would have been on there sort of walking around thinking what could have been fixed, what can be upgraded in the Britannic and on later refits of the Olympic and the Titanic. So these guys would get there and then they'd come home on the return trip. And I believe on the return trip, please correct me if I'm wrong on this, but anyone can correct me. I believe on the return trip they were actual passengers. They didn't have to do any work, but I might be wrong. Okay, so today we're going to talk about a young man by the name of Mr. William Campbell. William was born on Tuesday the 22nd of September 1891. He was born in Belfast, Ireland. So at the time of the sinking, William was only 20. I mean, he was still a very young man. But I guess in the eyes of people at the time, 20 was a reasonably, wasn't old, but you were still getting on there. You weren't considered young anymore. You were out there getting a job, you were out there doing your life, but now 20 is like, oh yeah, I'm still discovering myself, I'm sort of trying to work out who I am, and a lot of the time, I guess, at 20, these guys were married and probably had children. He wasn't married. He was, like most of the Guarantee Group and most of the builders, he was Irish. William was a carpenter joiner, so he would have been involved in helping put together those elaborate wood carvings and things like that. He probably wouldn't have been a carver, but he would have been on there putting them together on the ship and sort of making it look beautiful the way it did. And look, he must have been brilliant at his job to being selected as an apprentice to start with, and then as part of the group to actually get on there on the trip on the way to New York. So obviously he did embark from Belfast. He got on the Titanic at Belfast along with the rest of the Guarantee Group. He was situated in a second-class cabin, and he would have shared that with one of the other guys on the Guarantee Group because he was in a two-berth cabin. Now, I can't put my finger on at the moment who he did share that cabin with, but yeah, he would have shared the cabin with one of the other guys in the Guarantee Group. He was very well liked, from what I can tell from the research that I've done. He was a bright lad. He was described by the people at Harlan and Wolff. And he would have been, like I said, I've said it a couple of times, but you have to sort of respect out of 1,500 people, he was chosen as part of an 8-man squad. Now, those that you would like looking up this information, his ticket number on the Titanic was 239853. Now, like a lot of the other guys in the group, it's been fairly difficult to find a lot of information. But the information I could find was that he came from a Presbyterian family. He was the youngest child of William Campbell. He was born in 1845, and he was also a seaman. And his wife Sarah, her maiden name was Hawthorne, and she was born in 1847. Now, it looked like, and unfortunately, his parents ended up having 8 children, but they lost 2 of them in infancy, and not long, 2 days after the sinking of the Titanic, William's sister actually passed away as well. So they had the tragedy of William dying on the Titanic, and then 2 days later, his sister died. I mean, that's... You think of his poor parents when that sort of thing happens, that you're dealing with the grief of, where's your son? He's on the Titanic, you're getting word in. It's not like today that we would have got instant information. They would have had to pass information to New York, put it up on boards in front of the White Star Line. I mean, it would have been slow coming, and so you're still trying to work out where your son is, and then your daughter dies. So the grief that his parents would have been going through would be astronomical. Now, like most of the guys that worked for the White Star Line and the Harlan and Wolff, they didn't live that far away from the docks. So I mean, by 1911. It shows that his family was living in Earl Street in Clifton, and that was in North Belfast as well. And at that time, in that census, William was described as a joiner. So joiner, carpenter, and that type of thing. As I said, William was described as a bright lad by Harlan and Wolff, and he was a joy to work with and very intelligent. Now, tragically, William Campbell did die on April 14th, 15th, 1912 on board the Titanic. Now, what we don't know what took place or what he did during those final hours. But I guess you could imagine that if he was bright enough and strong enough to get in that final eight to get on board the Titanic, he would have been trying to help people. His body, if recovered, was never identified. So his parents were able to lay him to rest. So, I mean, you can think about the fact that he's still one of the 1,500 odd bodies that that are still resting on the wreck of the Titanic. His bones may have dissolved by now, but he's still there. He's still laying at rest with that beautiful ship, and he'll always be there, along with all those other victims of the Titanic. Now, not long after the death, there was a item in one of the newspapers, and it was in the London Times, I believe it was. It was on the 27th of April in 1912, and it read, William Campbell, an apprentice joiner, who was one of the special staff on the Titanic sent by the builders, and whose name, unfortunately, is not included in the list of survivors. As already recorded, a sister of his passed away in Belfast a few days ago, and in her last illness was touchingly anxious to see again her young brother, who, all unknown to her, had met a cruel fate. So it was unknown to her at the time, up to the 27th of April, that her brother had passed away. I mean, I can't imagine that you're there dying on your last breaths, not knowing what's happened to your brother. Now, William Campbell's estate wasn't huge. It was £10. I mean, it's not a lot of money, even in those days. And it was given to his father on the 27th of March in 1913. So, almost a year later, his money was given to his father. And April 15th, 1913, a year later from the sinking, a memorial appeared in the Belfast newsletter. Campbell, in fond memory of my dear brother William, who lost his life in the RMS Titanic on 15th April 1912. Also my dear sister Lizzie, who died the following day and was interned in the city cemetery. Now, it's still heartbreaking for me to think that these young guys died so sort of before their time. I mean, you look at William and all the other guys in the guarantee group, they were extremely good at their job, so they were going to be moving up in the company and becoming more successful. Now, there wasn't just William and his sisters that died in that time around 1912. I mean, William's mother passed away as a result of cancer on the 20th of June 1915. So that poor family just went through hell on earth for those few years. And I do hope that his father was able to live a good life and take care of the other kids and just not have any stresses in his life. But who knows, back then it would have been a very hard life. Guys, I hope you really liked this episode of Titanic History. I hope it was worth waiting this long for a new episode. I'm going to continue working on the guarantee group. But if you've got any other information you'd like to know or an episode you'd like me to do, please feel free to shoot me an email or jump on Facebook at Titanic History. And I'd be happy to look at it and review it. I'm always after a co-host, even a temporary co-host or a permanent co-host. It's always better to bounce things off people. So if you'd like to be a co-host, again, please hit me up. And guys, if you do want to donate to the Patreon account, please help us out. That'd be great. Alright, until the next episode, guys, have a lovely day. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and all of that. And stay safe, and let's hope this coronavirus disappears very quickly. Thanks, guys. Bye.